Hey, it's the middle rounds and you're looking for a running back, but you don't know if you can trust the names on the draft board or not. Let's break down some middle round running backs. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hope everything is well out there in YouTube land. Hey, listen, it's the middle rounds and you're looking for some running backs, right? You don't know if you can trust the guys that you see. I mean, you've recognized the names, but are they going to have a good year this year? They may have had a good year last year. Doesn't always mean the same thing for this year, though. So I got a few names put together here. We're going to discuss whether we can trust these guys here in the middle rounds. Before we get into this list, though, make sure you guys head over to the RotoBaller channel, dropping new episodes over there every single week with a lot of new content. You looking for more in-depth analysis? That's where we have it. Also have the live game day show coming up on Sundays. You don't want to miss out on that. Last-minute weather, waiver, injury advice, everything up to the minute. Right there live on Sundays once the season starts, so make sure you go check that out and subscribe over there. But for right now, let's get into some mid-round running backs. All right, first guy I want to talk about is going to be Alex Collins. And he's somebody who's right there as a fringe. Can we trust him or can we not? Listen, last year, weeks 8 through 17, he was running back 8 overall. He had a great second half of the season when they finally gave him the opportunity there in Baltimore. And the only guy there to really threaten his touches is Kenneth Dixon, who just can't seem to stay healthy. It's like every year the guy is dealing with something. And once again, even in camp this year, he's got soft tissue injuries. Still not fighting for any of these carries. It's going to be Alex Collins' job here to start the season. And being that they didn't draft a running back in the draft here recently, kind of just tells you, right, that they believe in Collins. They think that they have their guy in Collins. If they didn't, they would have taken somebody even in the later rounds. They didn't take anybody else. Plus, they get Marshall Yanda back this year. He's a Hall of Fame right guard. Now, he's had tons of injuries in the past too, but if he can stay healthy, that'll only improve the offensive line from last year. And right now, his current ADP is 46 overall. So depending on your league size, he's right there in the 4th, 5th round. Now, can you trust him? Yes, you can. I'll be taking Alex Collins in a lot of my leagues this year. He's a solid RB2 that you may be able to get as your flex play in the 5th round, which is really solid. No issues taking Alex Collins there. I draft him with confidence. Next up is going to be Jay Ajayi. And yep, still a lot of people not on the Jay Ajayi bandwagon this year. A lot of people hating on him. I mean, I get it. His knees are weak. They may not last all season, but I'm not worried about all season right now. I'm worried about week 1 and in the draft. Injuries are going to happen to everybody. You can't predict them or always avoid somebody in the draft just because of the chance of an injury. A lot of people do that. A lot of people did that last year with Leonard Fournette. Look how that turned out. The guy had a pretty solid year. And now Jay Ajayi is still running behind the best-rated offensive line in football, according to Pro Football Focus. He's going to get the bulk of the early down work, right? I mean, who else is going to take it? LeGarrette Blount is gone. Corey Clement's there, and he may take a series here or there. But that's about it. And Jay Ajayi is going to get the early down work. Yeah, he probably won't get a whole lot of the passing down work. That'll be, the mixture of Clement or Smallwood or Darren Sproles, who's like 45 years old, but he's still out there running around looking good. But Jay Ajayi is going to get most of the goal line work, if not all the goal line work. And plus, it's Philadelphia. That defense is sick. They're going to be having a lot of second-half leads, having to run the ball. They're going to be leaning on Jay Ajayi there in the second half to run out the clock and get a victory. I have no issues with Jay Ajayi, especially right now with his ADP of 47, just like Alex Collins, somebody you can draft. You don't have to depend on him week 1, but you have him on your roster for depth, and he could potentially, produce RB2, maybe even RB1 numbers if he can get enough touchdowns. But being at 47th overall, you're taking him right there in the 4th, 5th round. Easy money. Taking him all day long. I trust Jay Ajayi at that position. Let's go to 26th overall, so we're going a little bit earlier. Let's talk about Joe Mixon for a second. Now, he's been a pretty popular topic here in the offseason. Everybody's calling for the Joe Mixon breakout. I was a little slow to that bandwagon just because I didn't trust Marvin Lewis. It seemed like there was times last year where Joe Mixon should have gotten more work and just didn't. I didn't really understand it. Now, here recently, the Bengals have released Brandon LaFell, which I know doesn't make, who cares, really? But to me, that just kind of signifies that they're ready to hand the reins over to some of these younger guys. That gives John Ross the wide receiver 2 spot. It looks like so far here in training camp and through preseason that Joe Mixon's earned that top spot for sure in Cincinnati. And if they give him the work, he can produce the numbers. And Marvin Lewis is kind of in one of those win or lose job situations, right? If he doesn't win this year, he's done. I mean, he knows that he does to pull out all the stops. He's got to get to the best playmakers on the field and just hope for the best. It's the only chance that he's got. Now, Mixon is a 3-down back. He's capable of catching a lot of passes. Did right there in the preseason week 1. Had him lined out in the slot. caught a nice pass on the sideline, made a spin move, broke a tackle, walked it into the end zone for a touchdown. It was a great play. And if he can do stuff like that throughout the season, there's no way that Joe Mixon couldn't at least be a top 15 running back, especially if they can get him 20 touches a game. You know, they added additions there to the offensive line in Cordy Glenn and Billy Price. That only helps things out from last year, which was a horrible offensive line last year. And all the things are pointing in the right direction for Mixon. Like I said, right now, a current ADP of 26, so right there in the third round, beginning of the third round. This is how I look at it. Mixon is somebody with a huge ceiling, right? He can put up some big points if given the opportunity. If you decided to go heavy wide receiver at the beginning of your draft and you're sitting there in the third round and Joe Mixon's on the draft board, you take him, you hope for the home run. You never know. You could find yourself a top running back there in the third round and be happy with it. Let's stay right there on the same spot, right? We were just talking about Joe Mixon. Let's talk about Jordan Howard, whose ADP is 27. So one pick later, right there in the third round also. A lot of people are hating on Jordan Howard still. I feel like I've talked about him in a few videos, and I still see nothing but Jordan Howard hate out there. I don't really understand it. The guy's still going to get 200-plus touches in an offense where he gets to run behind an above-average offensive line. He's going to be leaned on heavier in the colder, wintry months there in Chicago. I mean, you can't throw 30, 40, 50 times. We've never seen Trubisky throw that many times. So I'm not going to go out there and say the guy's going to all of a sudden throw 30, 40 times a game. They're going to lean on the run in Chicago more than people think. I have a feeling. Over the past 2 seasons, Jordan Howard has had 2,400 rushing yards, and that's behind a boring John Fox offense. Matt Nagy is way more of an offensive genius than John Fox is, and look what Jordan Howard did there. In the games that Matt Nagy called the plays in Kansas City, Kareem Hunt averaged 25 carries a game. That's pretty impressive, especially if you can get him right there in the middle of the third round. Standard leagues, he's much more valuable. He's not much of a PPR threat, but for somebody who's going to receive 200-plus touches, at that point in the third round, you can have him as your RB2 or 3, depending on how your draft is going. Sign me up for some Jordan Howard all day long. Let's go one pick later after Howard and Mixon there. Let's go to ADP 28th overall. Let's talk about LeSean McCoy. He's been a popular topic this offseason and not for anything good. We have no idea what's going to happen with LeSean McCoy. He could come out, have no issues, and be totally fine all year long. He could be suspended in a week. We have no idea, and anybody who tells you they know is lying to you. But put all that stuff aside here just for a second. Let's focus on the draft part of it and whether you can trust him or not. He's running behind the 29th ranked offensive line in one of the worst offenses in football that could be plagued by bad quarterback play. It all depends who ends up getting the job. I mean, we just saw Nathan Peterman look okay in preseason game number 1, but it's preseason game number 1. But at least he was throwing it to the right team, which is different than what we saw last year. A.J. McCarron didn't do anything flashy. Josh Allen had a few throws throughout the game that were very impressive. He's just got to find a way to be more consistent. I don't know if he's ready for week 1, but LeSean McCoy is going to be dealing with these off-the-field distractions. The suspension will be looming. It's kind of similar to the whole Zeke situation from a couple years ago. We just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. And right now with an ADP of 28, right there in the third round, I'm not willing to take that risk for all these question marks. He's talented. I know he's getting older. I know he's going to get a lot of touches if he plays just due to the lack of options. But I don't want anything to do with LeSean McCoy this year. Off-the-field issues or not, I'm passing on LeSean McCoy. Now let's go talk about Kenyon Drake. Let's see if we can trust him in the middle rounds. Right now he's got an ADP of 39, so right there in the fourth round. And I've said it before. It's nothing against Drake. I like Kenyon Drake as a running back. I just have a feeling that there is going to be numerous times throughout the season that Frank Gore or Kalen Ballage are going to take away critical carries. It's going to drive us fantasy owners crazy. I mean, why did they bring him there to begin with? Why did they bring in Frank Gore? Why did they draft Kalen Ballage if they believed in Kenyon Drake? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense if they believed in him. So being that they brought him in there, they plan to use him. And all that's going to do is irritate the Drake owners. Now, did he have a good end of the year last year? Yeah, he was running back 8 from weeks 13 to 17. But that's also when there was no Damian Williams. It was pretty much just Kenyon Drake there. Now, had he had competition for carries or other options, maybe that would have worked out differently. We don't know. What we do know is there's going to be a lot of options this year in Miami. A lot of negative game scripts, meaning they're going to be chasing points in the second half. They're going to be throwing more. A lot less running. Kalen Ballage is a pass-catching specialist. It's just things lining up to go against Kenyon Drake. I like him if he had the opportunity. I'm just not sold that he's going to get the opportunity yet. I'm going to pass on Kenyon Drake here at ADP 39 overall. I'm going to move on. Let's move a few picks later. Let's talk about Derrick Henry here at 41st overall for his ADP and whether we can trust him or not. Now, we were all happy about Derrick Henry. I was happy about him. A lot of people out there were happy about him. We thought this was going to be Derrick Henry's year. And then they went out in free agency and signed Dion Lewis, and now they're even coming out and saying it's going to be a committee. Now, I'm pretty sure that Derrick Henry gets the bulk of the early down work, and Dion Lewis gets the bulk of the pass-catching duties. Derrick Henry will get most of the goal line carries, which is a positive, but here's the question. Is it just smarter to take Dion Lewis a few rounds later? I mean, it's possible that Henry gets more carries, but it's also possible that Lewis gets more yardage out of the carries and catches that he does get. Right now, to me, it's just a better bargain to take Dion Lewis a few rounds later. Either way, they're going to be running behind one of the top rated offensive lines in football. Right now, they're ranked number 5 overall by Pro Football Focus. But an ADP of 41 for Derrick Henry just seems a little expensive when I know I can get Dion Lewis a few rounds later. So if you're asking if I trust Derrick Henry or not right there at the 41st overall pick, I'm going to pass on Derrick Henry. I'll take my chances with Dion Lewis a few rounds later. Last guy I'm going to talk about is going to be Lamar Miller. And I know, Lamar Miller burned a lot of you guys out there last year, myself included. I think we've been waiting for Lamar Miller to break out there in Houston for the last 2 years, and it just seems like it hasn't happened. But do you realize over the last 2 years he's still a top 20 running back? I mean, it doesn't seem like it. It's nothing flashy. It's nothing exciting. But he's somewhat consistent. I mean, the defense has improved there in Houston. They should have more second-half leads where he can actually get a chance to run. Donta Foreman's not going to be 100% healthy to take away carries there at the beginning of the season. The defenses are going to be taking their defensive schemes and focusing them on Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. I mean, Lamar Miller isn't striking fear into opposing defenses anytime soon. Now, does that mean he's going to come out and have a killer year? Probably not a whole lot, but he's going to be consistent, like I said. He did come into camp lighter this year. He's trying to be more explosive. He was top 20 the last 2 seasons, like I said. He's a safe pick. He's a safe RB2. And right now, ADP of 56, somebody you can get right there in the 5th, 6th round, depending on your league size. It's a bargain for somebody that you can put into your lineup if you went heavy wide receiver early or you're just looking for a solid bench running back. If you're asking if I trust Lamar Miller at that ADP, yes, I do. A whole lot earlier, not so much. All right, so that was a few mid-round running backs, a few of them to discuss here. There's a lot more to choose from. I could have put 10 more on this list, but I'm trying to keep the videos a little bit shorter for you guys. And then let's be interactive. Hit me up down below in the comment section. If there's somebody that I didn't talk about, ask me about it. Let's see if we can talk about it, figure out an opinion, and get you guys a strategy for your fantasy football drafts here coming up. Really appreciate the support. Channel's growing like crazy. If you guys have any questions, make sure you hit me up on Twitter or down below. Love to hear from you guys. Make sure you guys are liking, commenting, subscribing. We'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.